Oh, where's the little mic? Check the mic away. You changed it. That's okay.
Questions that we're going to be asking, and once your interview is done, you're free to stay as a member of the general public. Once all interviews are complete, the select board will go into executive session to discuss each applicant. And we then intend to come out of executive session with an identified individual. At such time, a motion will be made to appoint the identified individual. Lastly, this role, not to be taken lightly, is a huge commitment. You may become an RSU 21 Board of Directors member that will serve in the best interest of the children of Kennebunk, Faneuil, and Arundel. At the very next RSU 21 board meeting, prior to taking a seat on the board, one of the items you will be asked to read and accept is the RSU's policy, the board member code of ethics. And please read this document thoroughly and understand its intent. So we will start with the questions.
I think I've already read it and signed it once.
Yeah. Knowing this is an interim post, why did you volunteer your service?
I think I explained that in my email, but I'll go through it again.
Yeah.
Over the last probably 8 or 9 years, it feels like we've had kind of a revolving door going into the RSU. So either no one stays, or they say something they're not supposed to and then they resign, or they swear and they resign, which has left us in this kind of and I mean, I've been up against you guys a couple of times. It kind of leaves us in a constant state of being underrepresented on the board. I mean, we only have 3 seats on the board. Like tonight they're picking a new chair, a new co-chair. They're going into executive session to discuss a whole bunch of stuff, and we're missing a person.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's kind of rough. So I'm now retired, so I have more time. I would have stayed on the board the last time, but when I ran for the board the last time, I didn't have Ethan living with me. So when I ran in June and got elected and I took my place on the board in July, I didn't have Ethan. I didn't get Ethan until August. I did my whole 3 years. I think I missed maybe 1 or 2 meetings in the whole time. But he was spending a lot of time at meetings, and I didn't think it was fair to him. So that's why I left. Then things in life just got way busy. Didn't go back on again. But I've watched what's been going on, hiring people without having it on the agenda and all the other things that have been going on. And it was like, well, it's not like it's like my most favorite thing to do. But sometimes it just gets to the point where you say, come on, we need a grown-up in the room. And that's where I got to.
Okay. Are you entertaining a run for this elected position in June?
Yes.
All right. Do you want to start with question 2? You want to keep going? Yeah.
Okay. Tell us a little about your previous public contributions, if any, even if they are not related to the town of Arundel or RSU 21 directly.
Yeah.
Standard questions.
Yeah.
I know. I've sat on the budget board. I've sat on the comprehensive planning committee. Several comprehensive planning committees. I did sit on the RSU for 3 years. So I've sat on several boards, several committees. I've tried to keep my hand. The only thing I haven't gone for is selectmen. Don't even look, I'm not going there. But this is kind of, I actually kind of enjoyed being on the board, even though it was a pain. It's definitely a challenging position. It'll keep you on your toes. But I think I've sat on a lot. I probably sat on more boards than I can remember in town. Oh, budget too. I sat on budget comp plan. Then when we rewrote I've been to so many planning board meetings. I think I know the whole thing by heart by now. Do you need anything more in detail?
You want to go on? Go ahead. Yep.
All right, what is your understanding of your role as a member of the RSU 21 board?
Well, number one, I'm a representative of the town. So I'm supposed to look out for the best interest of the town, the kids of the town, as well as the other kids from the other two towns. And it's funny because I was reading some of their new policies. And when I was originally put on the board back in 2012, they had Drummond and Woodsum come in and tell us that we were only there just to look out for the kids. And I said, no. I said, I represent my town. I need to make sure that what's good for the kids is also good for my town. Because if we give the kids everything, but their taxes go up so much that they can't afford to buy heat, or they can't afford to buy food, or they can't afford to buy clothes, then I really haven't done anything for that kid. And they didn't like it. But I was reading the policy now, and the policy now says that you're supposed to represent your town. And I'm like, whoa, that's a switch. But yeah, I believe that everybody needs to give to their community. And I've done it before. So here I am again.
Bill, you want to take the next one?
Well, the fact that I've sat on it before, and I was on that, I believe I was on the policy committee the first time. I think I was either on the HR or the finance committee the first time too, because I've sat on two committees as well as sitting on the board. I've been there, I've done it, I know how it works. This is from what my understanding is, my interim is from whatever happens now to June. There's not a lot of time to play catch up, because by the time you play catch up, you're going to be running again. And like I said, I really don't like the fact that we've been underrepresented for so long. I'm retired. I've got a vast knowledge of insurance. I was sat on the teachers contract committee. So I did the teachers contract, not this time, but one of the last other times. I sat on the custodian committee for their contract. So I've done contract negotiations. I've sat on various committees within the board. So it's not new to me. And through my regular work, I mean, I know how to do Word, Excel, all those other kinds of things. Write policy.
What do you think it'll take for you to become an effective and successful school board member?
That's a baited question.
Mm-hmm.
Without seeing how the board operates today, it's kind of hard to completely answer the question. My biggest thing is because I've been there before and because I've seen how it operates, that helps because you have some knowledge about what they're going to do and how they're going to do it. But the rest of it, I can't answer it until I get my hands in the mud, I guess is the only way to say it. I need to know more about you can watch the meetings, but you're not seeing what's happening in executive session. You're not seeing the interactions between the superintendent, what's happening with the schools. That's the stuff that you can't teach somebody. You have to see it, you have to know it, you have to be able to recognize it. I hope that because I spend as much time at the school as I do, that will help. Because I see what happens in the school, I see what's going on, I see the shortfalls of the build, that kind of thing. But I can't, I wish I could fully answer your question, but I can't.
What issue do you see as major priorities for the school board?
Probably the budget. Aside from the budget, probably the fact that we have some schools that are losing students and some schools that have more students. I know they've moved some of the stuff around, so some of the kids go, I think it's 3, 4, 5 at Sea Road. And I think KES now only goes to 3. But it's getting a handle on what the budget is, getting a handle on where the issues are. I'd also like to have more information on why we've lost so many teachers. We've lost a lot of teachers this last year.
Can you make the necessary time commitments to serve on the school board?
Did it the first time, fully expect to do it the second. I'm not even, I mean, if you wanna call playing with the kids working. Don't want to let Jen hear you say that. But I don't look at working at rec as being like a job. I mean, it's got its trials and tribulations, but it's more fun than anything else. But I'm not working 10-hour days and then going to school board meetings or trying to arrange my morning schedule at work to be able to sit on committees for the school board. I'm in a whole different point of my life. I have no kids at home, no husband at home. So if I could make the commitment the first time, if I'm retired, I better be able to do it now or there's something really wrong with me. Aside from the fact that people think I've lost my mind.
If you have an opportunity to add any information about yourself, which you feel may help the select board in knowing you a bit better.
Okay, so you guys are, but I understand that I'm not the only person in front of you.
Yeah.
You know me, I'm pretty genuine. I say it how it is. I don't like the fluff. Don't ask me to fluff things. I don't like to fluff things. The board is problematic. We know it. The best we can do is make sure that we get represented. That's the best thing that we can do is just make sure we get represented and try to retain people so that we retain the knowledge instead of losing them every periodic.
Okay. Anyone else have anything?
Just one quick thing, Diane, I wanted to make sure, because I hate misinformation. But you had mentioned something about in your letter that they are assigned by selectmen and then they resign, or even worse, their action caused them to resign, to be recalled. Nobody that this board has ever
No,
assigned.
no.
has ever
I
been-
didn't mean that you guys did it. What I'm
Okay.
saying is that you
I,
guys put them on the board. Once you put them on the board, you can't control what they do. But what I'm saying, that's what I was saying when we're underrepresented. You guys do the best that you can to put somebody on the board that you feel is gonna be okay on the board. Once they're there, you can't control it.
but the individuals that we've put on the board have actually been very, very good representatives on the board. We
No,
put together 2, I think, I think only 2,
Yeah.
and they have been absolutely, awesome
No,
representatives.
I
So
wasn't
just-
trying to be critical
Yeah.
of what you do.
I just didn't want to get any misinformation out.
No,
there.
what I was
Okay.
trying to say is that you guys put them on the board, but you don't have any control over them after you put them on the board. What they do, which makes them have to leave the board or leave their positions or resign their positions, isn't with you. All you guys can do is work with the information that you have.
Right.
And put the person that you think is best on the board. That's all you can do. No, I wasn't trying to
Yeah.
insinuate that anybody that you had put on the board was
Fair.
bad.
Good.
No.
Thank you.
All set?
All set. Thank you.
Thank you. So Matt Stratford is now the chair.
Kind of like winter out there.
Geez, Chip, you think it's cold outside or something?
Well, it is a little cold outside. Not terrible, but. Pardon? Yeah,
Yeah. Hey, Chip, thank you for your interest in becoming an RSU 21 board member. We will interview each applicant individually with 7 questions. We will more than likely be taking notes as you speak. If there are any members in the audience, we will not be accepting any comments or questions from them. Once your interview is done, you are free to stay as a member of the general public. Once all interviews are complete, the select board will go into executive session to discuss each applicant. We then intend to come out of executive session with an identified individual. At such time, a motion will be made to appoint the identified individual. Lastly, this is a role not to be taken lightly. It's a huge commitment. You may become an RSU Board of Directors member that will serve in the best interest of the children of Kennebunkport, and Arundel. At the very next RSU 21 board meeting, prior to taking a seat on the board, one of the items you will be asked to read and accept is the RSU 21 policy board member code of ethics. Please read this document thoroughly and understand its intent. Now, this will start with the questions. Knowing this is an interim position, why did you volunteer your services?
I first became involved with RSU 21 in 2016 when there was a move to have Arundel withdraw from the regional school unit. I worked on a citizens committee to stay in the RSU. In 2021, I applied for an appointment just like tonight. I believe that's when Todd Shea had resigned. I ran for the office in 2023. As I'm sure you're aware of the results of that election. And I will run again in June of 2025 if this board sees fit to appoint me this evening. It is a big time commitment, and there's a lot of work to do. I'm now fully retired and I'm ready and willing to do it.
And what motivated you now?
I've been interested in serving on the school board for years. So when the opportunity came up to apply for this position, I did so.
Okay. Dan?
You've already answered the B part, so.
Yep.
Tell us a little about your previous public contributions, if any, even if they are not related to the town of Arundel or RSU 21 directly.
Okay. Well, one thing that I'll throw out, for almost a year, I've been serving on the Hope Cemetery Corporation Board. I was on that citizens committee that I mentioned in 2016. I served on the Arundel Planning Board from 2016 through 2019. In the second year, my fellow board members elected me vice chair. And in the third year, although I was the junior board member, I was selected to be chairman of that board. I served on the street design committee with several of you in 2018. I was on the charter review committee from 2021 to 2022. I was on the TIF capture cost committee for Arundel in 2022 and 2023. And I think Keith told me I was the first one to put my name in the hat for the fire station committee last year. I don't know whether that committee has been formed or not, or is waiting on the zoning ordinance that needs to get squared away. And I ran for the select board last June.
Your understanding of your role as a member of the RSU 21 board.
First and foremost, it's to serve the students of the area, the three towns, and try to make sure that they get the best education possible with the resources that are available. It also is to have responsibility for the financial expenditures of RSU 21 because it affects all the taxpayers. It's a very large part of Arundel's tax burden, the contribution to RSU 21. And so I think it's being a good steward of public funds and trying to do the best we can to give the kids a good education. I'm sorry, sir. My hearing isn't great. The greatest area of expertise is in municipal finance and governmental accounting. I was in municipal finance for 28 years professionally. I am extremely familiar with governmental fund accounting under GASB, Governmental Accounting Standards Board, which I'm sure you know is very different from normal corporate accounting. One of my specialties was working with localities and other governmental entities on financial management policies. And I think that that's something, frankly, that the school board needs more of. A fund balance policy, starting with the fund balance policy. And that's something I'm very familiar with. I've also worked with a lot of different municipal entities on budgeting, capital improvements plans. And through almost 30 years, I worked on a wide variety of school projects, both for the local government, but I also worked with for several years with the state bond bank in Virginia that provided funding to localities. And I think that level and depth of financial management for municipal governments is something that the board needs. Candidly, I've had an opportunity to talk to Brittany Girth, who's chairman of the finance committee on the board. I've known her for a few years now. And I know that I can work well with her and help her do as good a job as possible in that finance committee. So that would be the biggest thing that I think I could bring to the board.
Jeff, what do you think it will take for you to become an effective and successful school board member?
I think the first thing would be to really roll up my sleeves and read through all of the policies that the board has, go back over finance committee meetings that I can find on video. And candidly, to start with, listening. Finding out what the priorities are, what the challenges are. And figure out where I can make a constructive contribution. But I have a lot of research and work to do to be able to be as effective as possible.
And what issue, Chip, do you see as a major priorities for the school board?
The budget.
Yeah.
As you know, the RSU budget vote in May of 2024 was very contentious. There wasn't just one group of stakeholders that was unhappy. I think every group of stakeholders was unhappy at that meeting. Parents, taxpayers, teachers, that was one of the uncomfortable isn't quite the right word, but contentious is probably the right word. One of the most contentious public meetings I've ever seen, and I've attended a lot over my career. I think the budget in 2025 is going to be even more difficult. There were surpluses that resulted partly from lockdowns from the pandemic. Those monies have been spent. The pandemic funding from the state and federal governments is drying up or has dried up, from what I understand. Like every individual, every family, every business, inflation has hit the school board. Just the cost of everything. But there also has been a significant increase in the expense base at the school board. And so I think there's a serious challenge ahead in determining how to prioritize expenditures. And I think the driver there needs to be staying focused on expenditures that directly improve the education of students. That has to be the number one priority. As I'm going to say, we being hopeful, as we try to make decisions about how to pull a budget together for the RSU.
Okay.
You've kind of touched a little bit on this already, Chip, but can you make the necessary time commitment to serve on the school board?
Absolutely.
Certainly is a lot of time involved with.
It is a lot of time involved. And I actually look forward to it. Velma asked me the last time I was here about my cows, which I miss a great deal, except when the wind is blowing and the ground is frozen and I don't have to go out and find out whether they have water or the fence is down. So this time of year, I don't miss them quite as much. But yes, I'm ready, willing, and able to make the commitment necessary.
Okay, I think we're all set. Thank you.
For the opportunity, I appreciate it.
Stand right on
Yeah.
course here.
Hmm?
Stand right on course.
Hey, we don't mess around. You should know.
Yeah.
You should know that.
right. Okay, Tiffany, have you met all of us?
No,
Okay, I'm Velma Hayes. I'm the chairman.
yes.
Dan DeWoise.
Thank you. We thank you for your interest in becoming an RSU board member. We will interview each applicant individually with 7 questions. We will more than likely be taking notes as you speak. If there are any members in the audience, we will not be accepting any comments or questions from them. Once your interview is done, you are free to stay as a member of the general public. Once all interviews are complete, the select board will go into executive session to discuss each applicant. We then intend to come out of executive session with an identified individual. At such time, a motion will be made to appoint the identified individual. Lastly, this is a role not to be taken lightly. It's a huge commitment. You may become an RSU 21 Board of Directors member that will serve in the best interest of the children of Kennebunk, Kennebunkport, and Arundel. At the very next RSU's board meeting, prior to taking a seat on the board, one of the items you will be asked to read and accept is the RSU 21's policy, Board Member Code of Ethics. Please read this document thoroughly and understand its intent. Knowing that this is an interim position, why did you volunteer your service?
Is this, do I have to do anything with?
It's on.
No, it's fine. Yeah.
I am volunteering because it's interim. I have been attending every school board meeting except 2 in July for the past calendar year. I go to all of the policy committee meetings. I go to the communication committee meetings. For the better part of the last year, I've gone to the facilities meetings. And I just have been a really passionate, I'm a mom in the district. My daughter goes to MLD school. You have my resume. I'm the president of the PTO there. I'm really interested. A lot of people approached me and they wanted me to run for the position. And I said no. I said no, thank you. And they always asked me why. And I said, I don't want the handcuffs. I don't want the handcuffs of being in that position. I can be the president of the PTO. I can talk to anybody I want to. I can talk to teachers. I can talk to parents. There's no restriction there for me. I can attend a meeting and I can speak my mind and I can just go be me there. And that's what I like to do. And for a very long time, I was actually the only one in attendance at all of these meetings. And if any of you were at the budget meeting earlier this year in the gym where we all had the green cards and we're all, voting, I got up and at one point called out the crowd and just said, I would love everybody here to actually join me in the rest of these meetings because I'm sick of being alone at the meetings. And yeah, so I said, no, I'm not going to run, with all the vacancies that came up. I valued and I questioned who's going to sit in my seat. I'm the only one here. And then I go to the other side, who's going to sit in my seat. And then now it just feels like the time. I talked to the PTO board and they all said, Tiff, we need you. The board will be fine. All of that's going to be fine. Like, we would like you to be, in this position and do this. And I thought about it more and more. The 3-year time frame felt like a lot for me. I didn't know if I'd be good in the role. And then with the interim position, I thought that would be great to see what I could do there. To see how I could help there because it's, yeah, there's a lot going on in the room, even tonight. So, Dan, you had to leave.
Yeah,
the
I got
meeting
that.
tonight. They elected Matt as chair and Brittany as vice chair. not without some controversy, not without some calling people out. Clearly, there's something that happened behind closed doors. Part of that came out on microphone. There's just been a lot of pulling apart, disconnects, like people against people, and just really, yeah, now I'm getting full body like goosebumps because I feel like now's the time. I would like to be a part of that process. I would like to be in that space, and I would like to help bring people together and work together as best as I can. So I know that's long-winded question number 2.
Well, what motivated you now? All of that you just
Yeah,
explained?
the timing. I think it would be, I served on the PTO for about a year. And that, so in the pandemic, that group totally disbanded. There was one teacher who was also a parent who kept the organization afloat, and just barely, and she sent out a flare and just said, we need more people. 5 of us showed up and we didn't know each other. And they said, you're president. And I said, that's awkward, but okay. And so together, like the 5 of us, we didn't know each other at all. And we just made it what it is. It's not perfect, but it's a 501c3 now. We have done a whole bunch in the community. We're trying to, get people together. I think I first met you at the Historical Society dinner there.
Yep.
And yeah, it feels like it's time. And now there's so many more people coming into the committee meetings and the school board meetings. I don't have that same perspective of like, who's going to sit in my seat.
Yeah.
There's more people involved, and I feel like, okay, it's not going to be just an empty audience now. So
And are you entertaining a run for the elected position in June?
So I would learn over the next few months of whether or not I would do that.
Okay,
If appointed, I would take this time to be in the process and move through that process to see if that's something that I feel like is I'm a good public servant in that role. So,
okay.
yeah.
All right, thank you. Dan?
Tell us a little about your previous public contributions, if any, even if they are not related to the town of Arundel or the RSU 21 directly.
Do you want me to expand more on my service in the PTO and the school board now? Or do you want to know before that?
You can state what you feel is
Okay, yeah.
best for this board to hear.
This specific appointment, absolutely, yes. I left tonight's school board meeting to come here. If this is done and the board meeting's still going on, I'm going to go back to the meeting and participate in the rest of that. And again, yes, involvement with the PTO, working with as many people there as I can. Now that I know your names, if I'm not appointed, you might hear from me about fundraising from the PTO. And then let's see, before that, I think I just have been enveloped in motherhood. My daughter's 8, and that was I was a stay-at-home mom, and I did that that was it. And now that she's older, she's in school, I started a business, started volunteering, started moving in that space. So
What's your understanding of your role as a member of the RSU 21?
they actually just went over that tonight. But it is a public service role. It's taking care of the students of the community. And in my mind, it really, really is getting stakeholder information as much as possible, getting the feel for what the community is interested in also. I place a high value on asking kids what's working for them and what's not. Obviously, that's an age appropriate question. You don't want to ask like, well, I did ask my daughter actually, how do you like the NWAs? How do you like taking a test? You know, how was recess today? And that feedback's important. You know, she told me recess was inside and I was on my computer all recess. For me, I had more questions. I was like, why were you inside? And she said, well, it's too cold out. And I'm going on a little bit of a tangent, but she said it's too cold out. And I said, oh, well, what were the other options for recess? And she said, I don't know. We all just go on our screens. That feedback is important to me. The feedback of the people in the schools, the staff, that's very important to me. I think in any leadership role, it's important to kind of have a 360-degree view of who you're serving, and what they think of how it's going, no matter the opinion. I think it's very important to consider. What knowledge and skills do I bring to the board? My resume will tell you that I served in the governor's office in my 20s. I learned a lot there, and I learned a lot about process. I learned a lot about Robert's rules, that sort of thing. I think that's an important piece for this board. I know that they've struggled. You know, even in tonight's meeting, there was a question of somebody, Gail wanted to abstain from voting for Brittany as vice chair. She didn't want to vote no. She didn't want to vote yes. She just wanted to abstain from voting. And everybody had questions for that. And so I think I do bring some knowledge around that. Being a parent, moving through that process, my participation in all committee levels and even at the board is like a parent's perspective. And also, you know, working with the board members in that process. So.
What do you think it'll take for you to become an effective and successful school board member?
Partnership, a lot of listening. And effective, I think just not taking a back seat. I think a lot of people take a back seat up there because there's some stronger personalities who kind of take over. And I think it's important to, if you're in a team, you know, in our PTO board, I know how I feel about what we have on our agenda. Like, I don't need to talk about that because I already know how I feel. When I worked with the board, I wanted to know what they felt. I wanted to know, what are your ideas? And I would go around the table and I would learn what everybody else thought, because I already know what I thought and I wanted to learn what they learned. Or what, you know, what their understanding what they have questions of. I wanted all the teachers to come to all of our meetings because I wanted to know what they had to say. I wanted to know, I did a whole bunch of surveys. I wanted to know everything from everybody. I think that's important, to be able to understand what's important to people, you know, what their perspective is, and take that into consideration and then move through the process collaboratively together.
Okay. What issue do you see as major priorities for the school board?
Oh my goodness, they've got 3 contracts coming up, the budget coming up, the superintendent reviews. And then tonight they are going to be battling the public comment policy that is up for debate tonight as well.
Can you make the necessary time commitment to serve on the board?
Absolutely, yes. I just moved myself down to part-time.
You have an opportunity to add any additional information about yourself, which you feel may help the school board, help the select board, knowing you a little bit better. You have an opportunity for a few minutes to.
Oh, goodness. Do you have any questions? I don't know. I really, whether or not you choose me tonight, I'm still gonna go back to the meeting. I'm still gonna participate. I'm still gonna go to the next meeting. I'm still going to policy. I'm still going to communications. I'm still gonna be there. That doesn't change for me. I have decided though, I'm here. I was a little shaky in the parking lot. I was like, am I doing this? Really? And I am, and I want to, I do want to have a vote. I do want to be effective. I do want to, I want to bring our communities back together. I don't want to see so much, disconnect. I mean, what we've experienced, in our community just in the last year has been like not my favorite. I'm not interested in disconnect. I'm interested in working together. I'm interested in hearing what people have to say and giving them the time and space to do that. So we all kind of feel like this is a good place to be. So,
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
Yep.
Nice to meet you,
Yeah.
for those that I haven't met yet.
You're going back to the school board meeting?
I think I should wait here. Is that
Yeah.
appropriate?
Oh. Mandy, I think you know all of us here.
So,
Yeah.
I hope so.
Okay. We'd like to thank you for your interest in becoming an RSU board member. We will interview each applicant individually with 7 questions. We will more than likely be taking notes as you speak. If there are any members of the audience, we will not be accepting any comments or questions from them. Once your interview is done, you are free to stay as a member of the general public. Once all interviews are complete, the select board will go into executive session to discuss each applicant. We then intend to come out of executive session with an identified individual. At such time, a motion will be made to appoint the identified individual. Lastly, this is a role not to be taken lightly. It's a huge commitment. You may become an RSU 21 Board of Directors member that will serve in the best interest of the children of Kennebunkport and Arundel. At the very next RSU boards meeting, prior to taking a seat on the board, one of the items you'll be asked to read and accept is the RSU 21's policy, Board Member Code of Ethics. Read this document thoroughly and understand its intent. Now, our first question is, knowing this is an interim position, why did you volunteer your services?
Well, I come in sort of as an outsider to a lot of the, really to a lot of serving on a community board. I did serve a brief stint for the budget board. But that was when we were in hiding over when this building was being built. So I think coming from an outsider's perspective, it's difficult to run an election when you haven't been able to sort of create that community presence. So I also think that that is a strength coming into the district at this point, where there have been a lot of public discourse, some turmoil. I mean, we've lost 4 members to recall or resignation in the last 2 years roughly. And so there's a lot of opinions and people have unknowingly, as human nature, kind of put themselves on one side or the other. And so coming as an outsider and really having people get to know me as we sit there, I see as a great opportunity to then build on that and maybe run an election after.
What motivates you now?
I feel like I'm at a point in my career, in my life, where I have the time and the skill set to be able to really lend, especially looking at some of the issues that the district is facing, which is really a lot of public erosion of trust. There are some internal and external stakeholders, and there have been some discourse that I think I working in a public sector for, about a decade, working specifically with transparency, fiscal responsibility, I have a lot of the skill sets that could be beneficial in bringing that community back together and getting us back on track.
Are you entertaining a run for this elected position in June?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Tell us a little bit about your previous public contributions, if any, even if they are not related to the town of Arundel or the RSU directly.
So I've worked in municipal government in many different sections. I did a little bit as a town clerk, so managing and running those elections and all of that. In another small town, which was a different structure, not a town manager town. I worked in the accounting department of human services for the city of Portland, which was really eye-opening because there were a lot of general assistants for the city of Portland, which was huge. And it was at a time that the governor was actually not paying for some of those asylum seekers under the LePage administration. So I've worked in a lot of different public service municipal government roles for over a decade now. And I think what I'm really looking to do is use a lot of that experience to give back to my own community now, because that's not something I've been able to do up to this point.
Your understanding of your role as a member of the RSU.
So I see that similar to the select board role for a community where you are setting policy, creating culture, making sure that your budgetary is, threading the needle between the operational needs, your capital needs looking out into the future, and making sure that you are maintaining, transparency, accountability to your community, but also it's all taxes, right? I mean, this office is the one that collects those taxes. So your role as the select board is to hear from all of the stakeholders, set the policy, and make sure that you're threading that budgetary needle. And that really is the role of the school board, just a different organization. I'm sorry?
Would you bring to the board?
My background really strongly is in fiscal management, serving as, directing finance for multiple different organizations. Most recently, the past 2.5, 3 years, I've served as assistant town manager for the town of Agunquit. So I was able to go from that more financial role to that 30,000 foot global view. So I bring those knowledge and skills, but where I don't have the skills would be on that curriculum side. And so, not acknowledging that would be remiss, but I do expect to learn a lot. I hope to learn a lot. And I think being open about learning and listening, communication is as much talking as it is about active listening. And so what I hope to bring is to bring the entire community along to learn from both sides, both of the curriculum, academic achievements, but also understanding how we prioritize things fiscally, why we're prioritizing things, how we can turn that back to the strategic plan. And I think that is something that would be of great benefit to the district currently.
What do you think it would take for you to become an effective and successful school board member?
First, to build trust, we have to create a safe space. We have to create a safe space for people of diverse opinions, for people to share and feel like they can share and be heard without recourse. And so I think before you can be any kind of effective anything, you have to create that safe space and promote that culture of listening and actively working together to move through something. Once you've created that foundation, you usually can work through most any problems together.
What issue do you see as the major priorities for the school board?
Well, the first and foremost is to really build that community public trust again. And so creating those safe spaces, cultures, creating opportunities to engage with diverse populations and local organizations and really just sort of bringing us all together again and making us understand that that is a safe space. And then we can start to achieve some of those goals that we've laid out. That's the biggest thing to get started.
Can you make the necessary time commitments to serve on the school board?
I can, and I feel like I'm finally at a place where I can do that. The past 5 years I've been in Agunquit, were pretty tumultuous. I mean, I started there in 2019, just before the pandemic happened, and then we all had to relearn how to do everything. And that office was vacant for 6 months before I started. And it crossed a fiscal year. So they hadn't closed or opened a fiscal year. They hadn't had an audit. And then we came into a pandemic and we were drafting a budget, and it's just been kind of crazy. So I'm finally at a place where we've settled. We've built some really great foundational building blocks. I was able to get promoted and create some building blocks within the finance office. So I do feel like I am at a point now where I have the time and I really have the skill set, and I want to help.
At this point, you have an opportunity to add any additional information about yourself, which you feel may help the select board in knowing you a little bit better.
So I grew up in Biddeford, my whole life through the public school system. My first associate's degree in that public community college. So I really understand the value, not just of the public school system and how that can create opportunities for people to live and work in Maine and create this community culture, but also having lived and grown up, my husband, most of you know my husband, grew up in Kennebunk. He's been affiliated with the Arundel Fire Department for a long time. And so we're very civic minded and community in this community, commitment here. We have a child in the school district, and we've just been looking to continue to build our roots, and help however we can. So I feel like in the current district's temperature, I would be the best candidate for what is needed at this time.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, at this point, Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we move into executive session per MRSA 405-6A to discuss board member appointment.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Do you have that? All in favor? All right, we're gonna go into the small conference room.
Yeah, we turned the heat back on. I thought the air.
Yes.
So we turned the heat back.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, you can fit in this next one. Oh, I don't know. Good as me. No, I brought Barbara. But I know they had, their vice chair. Yes, they picked Matt Stratford as the chair and Brittany Bird as the vice chair. Yes, not without. Love it. Yeah. She read at tonight's meeting, she read a very long document for reading. Which you can just rewatch it, and then the audio also gave her reason why. That's wrong. So I think my second instead. But why do you want to do it now? Can I ask? You don't have the answer. Because we're underrepresented. Weighted. Right. It's weighted, but it's. We're always going to be. Well, no, I mean, for some reason. Tend to have more people that go on the board than they do. We do. Yeah, last year, absolutely. Yeah. Right. Oh, sorry. I mean, specifically for Aaron. No, I don't. No, I know that. And then, like, no, I don't not like her. Why? It just, it's the way that things have gone. Really, you know.
Pretty much. I actually hated it. Well, it so.
It's what you see in public. It's just the iceberg of what you see in executive session. I guess it's my frustration. It's not just the personalities. It's how some people do. Like, you know, I was saying, I was surprised because I was reading some of the policies and when I actually went on board in 2012, they actually brought Drummond to try to tell us that we were there just to serve the kids. And I said, no. I said I wasn't elected by the kids, I was elected by the crowd. So there's a big disconnect between each town and how the towns treat each other. It doesn't have to be. But I'm telling you, it has been there.
Well, it's one of those things, right? So you're here and I'm here to get kids. Correct. So start messing around with these kids. Understood. And all of that, it just, and then there's.
Oh, see, a lot of that, what I saw didn't even have to do with kids.
No, it's. Well, that's what it is. Right. A lot of it really, really is. And so, and that's the frustration, I guess, that I come from. Yeah. Yeah. Whatever happens tonight, you and I should talk. Oh, for sure. Yeah. But it's just, that's why I'm never side of it. Public. I can go. Yeah.
The problem is that there's a lot of. There's just a lot of. But it wasn't even this bad when I was on. When I was on the board, it was fairly recent.
But there's always a bunch of shenanigans. I mean, I can remember going to a meeting and taking a vote one meeting and 2 weeks later we're at a meeting and they go, well, I changed my mind, we're gonna re-vote on this. And you knew from what happened that night that there'd been discussions outside of the school.
So that's frustrating. I mean, that's happening now, yeah, that's in the history of boards. Every board, every single board. You know, there's always somebody flipping votes. Yeah.
And then when you get into the finances, Kennebunk Board gets mad because they get taxed. Kennebunk gets taxed, but neither one of them gets any money from the state. The only school in the district that gets any money from the state.
Yeah.
Is us.
Well, I mean, I see that working in a way.
So we're like the ugly stepsister.
We are,
Yes.
for sure, and I get that, I do, understanding and all finances work, but that's just like. You're. Are apparently not.
No, it's not that. It's still, I've been in meetings where they discussed that we were like the cash cow. Because we were the only ones to go. But when it comes to decisions, well, it's gotta happen in those changes. That meeting is
No,
old.
I know, but,
That meeting is old.
no, I know, yeah, but like, I want to.
You should be able to request a copy of you.
No, I don't. You want to vote about it.
Oh. She wants to be the Elon Musk of the school budget.
I said you want to vote about it. Yes, I do.
Yeah.
And I want to, I want. Roll around, vote on it, yeah. You should come to the class meetings. Like whatever happens here, we should absolutely come to the finance meeting. That's where all the budget happens, that's where every single piece happens. And it actually, a lot of it happens, it's supposed to start in October, but here we are. We'll see how things go, but anyway, yes, you should come to those or watch those, you can attend them too. You have to go. I think finance is. That's not the one that I. Frequent. But a lot of it happens there. There's a ton of HR right now. HR is going to take anybody can go to these meetings. That is where the bulk of the work goes on. Especially if you're a member of the public and you have something you want to say, or you want to like be a part of that. They have like, yeah, I'm sure they have public comment, but it's a meeting, so you just participate. Like you're like I sit at the table and
Except for voting, you
can't vote, but I sit at the table and policy with my laptop. I have a microphone just like everybody else, and I'm like going through and just policy by policy, like. And like doing that, they're like, oh, thanks, Tim, awesome. That's interesting because that's not at all how any other committee. So that the school board meeting is totally different. That's the entire board and the board business and our data. They delegate all of that into policy committee, standing, all the standing committees. That's where all the work is done. And policy, like tonight, they're doing the first read of PTA, which they are trying to limit public comment by a landslide. Further creating disconnect. Right. The first read of that policy is tonight, and then I really want to get back because I want to speak on that one. That's a really big one to me. Because depending on how they vote tonight, they could either send it back to committee or they can spell, okay, sounds good, and then it comes back for a second read. And then the public comment on the second read. And then.
But by the time it gets passed first, it goes to second.
Well, they can, like just.
They can, but they don't.
Well,
I know, I sat on those.
the makeup
meetings.
of the board now, I would argue, like, they're probably still talking about it.
I would say.
Are they leading the meeting tonight? But a lot of times the committee, the board leaves it to the committees to make those changes.
I understand,
Yes.
my experience in committees and municipal world is you cannot sit at the table and have a speaker come up during public comment, just like you do anything like that before. And
So
they
they,
your
funny is that Claudia will. She's now moved to having the board members be able to speak first. And then she'll have public. Right, speak. And it all, it's just a big conversation, all works. And they can take your comments or not. I mean, if they do really great, that's great. They've been really, really great at policy and communication. Same thing in communication, is good at the table with that. Again, I'm the only one attending. Right. So if there's 10 of us, or, you know, it's not gonna be the same, right? If there's more people, I still put my laptop on a table, because I'm not gonna sit there. Right. With it on the lap, but they're really open to work with. They're great to work with. You get the whole work meeting, they're like, we did, part of the problem is, they've done the work. Right. And the public had the opportunity to show up, and we did. We show up to this spicy board meeting. Of course. So the board members were like, yeah, we did that, like, you know, they just don't have the space, they understand.
I think part of it is,
Yeah.
and it hasn't changed from when I was on the board. Some people don't have time to go to the meetings when they're having the meetings.
Right.
Because they're working.
Exactly.
So
That's
the only opportunity they get is to go to the select, is to go to the board meeting.
outreach. So I'm saying that the website is not enough, because you're only gonna get the people that are actively looking. You need to reach out to the community. This is my problem.
They don't.
Reach out if you want active participants during community discussions, which I had absolutely no idea that you do. Then you need to reach out to people to make sure that they know that it's not enough.
They don't want you to know.
So I will
They
say,
want you to know.
when I started in the PTO, every meeting we had, I was updating people on what's happening, that I went to, and I was like encouraging people, like, let's go, let's go, let's go.
You can't be the only one doing that.
I was.
Yeah, but you can't, that's not effective.
No, it's people that. No,
But on PTO. But right, the onus is.
It's. In executive session, it gets pretty nasty. It can get really pretty nasty. I've been in some executive sessions when I was on the board.
Yeah,
I mean, I've had a client up and down, things like.
And I wasn't.
No, that's gonna be there. You know, all the us are kids.
I don't know
what's going on to six.
Somebody said that.
It's, oh, well, no.
And the access to any
They
of
want
these.
that. And they spend.
I also, I have a page, I'm not on it, like, I don't, you know,
But just the last step, it's like, it cost us like $3,000. I would like to see what we could have done with the money so that they generally spent on topics. And money that they had to be able to add to all since 25. So we have the tool. Because when they tried to take that, it's got to stay in Panama. But they have to go to and not only the loss of the middle school.
We don't, generally.
Or the loss of the freshman year or whatever year they were. But they had to pay like a few years.
So.
like, so there's a lot of stuff that happened.
I mean, it was so bad that when after the board, after I left, I was named also. There is a problem. One, because now that.
Oh, absolutely, and that's.
And two, because they lied.
You know,
And so many instructions.
It's part of it, and it is people, again, are passionate about.
But you have to keep it over teaching slate. Well, it's like, you know, it's like, it's into the growth up in the group.
People's kids. Families. Down to the bed. And that combination. Is. It's never gonna feel great.
No, but you're gonna find that when you're on that board. Put on that door, and you're going, doing. Because. Even though they're totally it's like banging your head against wood.
Oh, see the wood on the door.
Yeah,
I like
it's
the
like
word.
It's like banging your
Like
head, it's like banging your head on the wood on the door.
Oh.
Because they
It can
really,
be that, sure.
they really do view the budget. I hate to say, they really do view the budget as anything that comes out of finance or anything the superintendent wants.
Okay. Raise your hand. Do you support Dr. Gary Hooper?
I have no opinion in this current, like,
No. No,
I don't have enough data.
you're not.
It's.
I really did like the hiring of the HR person.
I'm sorry. That was she.
Yeah.
That was.
That was not advertised, not made
Oh,
public.
that was.
That is,
elite.
yes,
For the language.
yes.
That was no problem.
So that's the reason why. And the amount of money they pay her.
Well, and it's just the whole, well.
Some town managers that don't make that kind of money.
So.
No.
That's a problem with all of them.
And it's
So,
when she shows up someplace. It's like. Can't do that. Can do that in big towns, but. I mean, my.
The only issue that I have.
You're invested in me. I think it would be, I think we pay her housing, her car.
No. That would be where I would be thinking. That is range and we. Where it does not immediately promote themselves in the community, because they don't understand right. Leave it if they're not.
I share that. I definitely, it's interesting when they were listing out, in like giving her the superintendent of the year award, that nomination. I read, did you read the letter?
The
Superintendent.
on the average, what, that was.
You can go to a meeting without taking half a staff.
So,
That was the least transparent.
well, so the award nomination itself, I read through the list of accomplishments that she had. And part of the reason I said I think it's 160 different review is I want to know from her employees, like the professionals.
We've never done a 360.
No, and I want to know that because I want to know what they, like, what do they think of this list of accomplishments? Because when I look at it, I go, wow, actually, that's impressive. That is getting shit done. That is really cool. That's awesome. And then I was like,
Do it, understand.
it, to me, like the leadership, that doesn't matter. It's the leadership of saying like,
It does matter.
this accomplishment, well, hear me out because it's very interesting. I looked at the list and I go, and I was like, wait, she like rolled in 2020 and looked at our letter complex. It's like, we can do better.
And in less than 2 years, you're at $4.3 million unfunded contracts. Yeah, and I was like, that is impressive. Yeah. Imagine if you wanted to build. If that was your priority, if you wanted to get a teacher contract passed, if you wanted all these things that everybody's like raging about, like, oh, we need this and that, if you wanted a cohesive, healed community, a woman with that caliber would have no problem getting us there. Yet, where we are now.
No, let me see, we have
It's
a
not-
4.3 sports complex. But we didn't finish the things at MLD that were on the original bill. We have no air conditioning in the gym.
Right, so it's not a priority, so like, that's my question, like, I want the 360-degree review, because
I don't know why we didn't get it in the first place. What happened that it didn't get installed in the first place, because that was on the original.
it was cut.
No,
No, I was like, how is that?
not in building this house. Because the original build that was passed by the public had air conditioning in the gym.
How are we about to
That was cut after the vote by the town.
But what? Sorry, Diane, not understanding.
So when they did the designs for the 3 schools that were being redone, they all had to go to get voted on. That vote included the air conditioning in the gym at MLD. But in the end, it wasn't done.
I was told that was cut process. It was not, okay, it just wasn't done. Well, that's an easy way to. To not do it.
This year. When you're looking at budget. Surplus, wait, to understand. Did they use that surplus to reduce the burden on the 3 towns for fiscal year 22?
Which absolutely should have been. All of the goals they did. Right. They did.
Bigger surplus.
We're gonna work on that. Getting rid of our noisy events.
Yeah. I'm working on it.
Yeah.
It's driving me nuts.
All right, I make a motion, we come out of executive session at 8:23 PM.
With no action taken.
No action taken.
That
Made and seconded. All in favor?
I think I'd just like to make a couple comments before the board makes a motion and second and appoints one of you members. First off, I am very appreciative of having you all here and showing an interest to serve the community in this very important position. I think you all bring certain unique style and experiences to the table. And the discussion was kind of spirited around the table as to how they were going to end up with an appointment. But I want to thank you all for setting yourself up there and looking to serve the community. Thank you very much.
All right, with that said, I'll make a motion that we appoint Mandy Cummings as interim director, board RSU 21.
I'll second that.
So
I will let the superintendent know tomorrow. The superintendent will probably get a hold of you, Mandy, and let you know as to how that process goes.
yeah,
You'll
more
be
than
in-
likely
you'll be in
the
there.
chair will probably get a
Sure.
hold
So-
of you, and there's gonna be a lot of paperwork and stuff that you need to read, but
Can we take some action on the payroll, please?
make a motion to approve as presented.
She gets something, I mean,
sworn in? I'm not sure
I
how
guess
that
they will be at the
process
very next meeting.
Yeah.
Because that's, we will certainly pursue that to make sure, because we need to get somebody on the board. Yeah, they may even still be on, but, you know,
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
thank you,
Thanks,
Diane. Hey, have a safe trip.
Yeah, have a safe trip.
so much.
Tiffany, thank you. Mandy, thank you. So we had a motion, a second for payroll? I do. Got it. Phil seconded that? Thank you.